Welcome to the Sports Umbrella, where we cover all aspects of sports. Soak in all the knowledge from our guests who range from pro athletes playing up a storm to industry experts making it rain. My name's Kelly Okun, and I'm a former pro golfer and founder and CEO of Fairway to Green, an equitable sports media company. Joining us this episode, presented by GalwayPlus, is Jadan Randolph, one of the co-founders of Vanguard Maven Group. Jadan shares how her company is reaching new sports fans through enhanced storytelling and unique community building tactics. Jadan, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you please tell me a little bit more about Vanguard Maven Group and what you're doing and what inspired it?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. So Vanguard Maven Group is essentially a marketing and strategy consultancy. And so we help teams, leagues, athletes, just, across many different sports. We pretty much help them tell engaging stories. And not just engaging stories, but like stories that really resonate with the audience. And so in doing that, we like to help them build almost like build a community around the sport. And I guess I shouldn't just say sport, but we've been heavily focused on sport, and we're like segueing into that media and entertainment space. But yeah, we help them tell these engaging stories so that they can build longevity and build revenue and just essentially build something that's long-term and almost like everlasting. And while doing that, we also help our clients that we like to call partners. We help them build different like IP around whatever it is that maybe they're, let's say it's a team that's looking to find a new demo. We'll help them develop shows or develop new events just to, again, it's all centered around community, so to bring in new viewers and new fans, I guess you could say. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many ways we can go with this. When you say bringing in new fans, we were talking earlier about like what would make me want to watch women's sports, for example. What went through your head and what's sort of your ideas behind that?
Yeah, and so, we've discovered that like women's sports has almost like a different type of fan. And so, yes, we look at the NBA and we look at the NFL and what's working for them in a sense. And I think we try to almost copy paste and do that in women's sports, but it doesn't exactly translate. And there's also this new wave of fan that wants to participate, and especially Gen Z. I'm speaking as the Gen Z representative at VMG, but we love to participate. And so a big part of it is the social media aspect and being digital first, right? So almost coming to the market in a way where if you're not at the game, you can still enjoy the game just as much. And I feel like we're hearing that a lot, but like, what does that look like, right? And so it takes investing in these different components of that ecosystem and like, okay, maybe we're going to do some live streaming digital event, right, that would tailor to that Gen Z audience. And, I myself, I'm speaking from experience because I didn't watch sports until about 2 years ago, and I only started watching it because of sports betting. And so, it's a major component to the viewership, but we're not just investing in the sport itself, right? And so a large part of building that community and building viewership and bringing new fans is, again, investing in those different pockets that are a part of the ecosystem and adjacent, right? Sport adjacent. And sports betting is just an example of that. It's not to say it's the only example, right? There are some communities that primarily consume short form content. And so how do you create something that almost goes viral, right? But not just relying on that social media aspect, really building it out. And we focus so heavily on community where it's almost studying how different groups engage and creating conversation. We see that's become the main driver of revenue and growth when it comes to audiences. So yeah, so how do you kind of, take into account social media's growth and create something viral, but also something that fans can participate outside of the conversation, like these fantasy or like brackets and things like that. Those are just, small examples, but that's really what we've been focused on in the last, I'd say, year. Just helping our clients, build different streams and look into almost like different avenues of doing that.
That's great, and you're ahead of the trend, because I think women's sports betting has been a really hot topic in the last year or so. What are your thoughts on it? Are like people moving too slow on it? Is it for men only or men's sports only?
It's funny, I actually have spoken to one of the groups that helps with data and stats and odds for the sports books. And they've talked about how the investment behind putting together like the lines for these games, it's just not there. They're just not investing in it, right? And so if you don't invest and it's not there, then you can't, right? If I'm only able to bet on money line, I'm probably not gonna, that's not fun, right? Or if I have very limited options, my chances of sports betting on that game are limited, right? And so again, the investment just has to happen. The audience is smaller, but it's growing rapidly, right? And so as I mentioned before, you have new viewers that are coming in the door through sports betting. So if you maybe put those odds there, those lines there, you'll get more viewers faster. So I think it's kind of a balancing act. You don't want to go all in, right? But the investment has to happen sooner rather than later, of course. So again, just wanting to have those odds there so that those viewers that maybe want a sports bet on this game can. But let's say I was betting on some sport before, right? And then that season's over. I'm looking for something else to bet on. I'm going to maybe try WNBA, but if there aren't really any options there, I'm just not going to do it. So again, needing that to be there, because that's how I became a fan of MLB. I started betting on NBA, and I was like, all right, this is cool. This is great. Now that I had so much fun, now what do I bet on because the season's over? And so I took a dabble into gambling Twitter at the time. And from there, I fell in love with betting on MLB through home run plays. Yeah. And so then after that, I was watching every game all the way through. I fell in love with the sport truly through sports betting, but I didn't need to sports bet to watch anymore. And so I think that needs to be studied, just, because there's all these articles about how like sports betting is terrible and, oh my gosh, you're going to lose all your money because you're gambling so much. And I get it, but there's also, with education and these guardrails around how much you can sports bet, it's not a bad thing at all. I think it needs to be seen more so as like entertainment versus almost like we're plaguing
a vice.
Like, oh gosh, I think it can be a vice. And I think that it's the same thing with like, let's say alcohol consumption, right? Yes, consuming too much alcohol is bad, but do a lot of us do it? Yeah, but like not too much, right? Like we might do it at a cocktail hour at one of these networking events, maybe. I mean, one of the first things you do on your 21st, they tell you, hey, go have a drink, right? I mean, but we don't see sports betting in that way, and I think that needs to change. And that's just my unpopular opinion. So.
No, it's really interesting. And you mentioned a stat earlier that showed how it increased viewership. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, and so a study was recently done just showing that avid sports bettors, they are like 88% likely to watch a game that they bet on, versus the non-bettors reported that it's 44%. So insane, right? But we need to ride that wave. Mm-hmm. And so if we're seeing that it's almost like a steroid to sports betting, to sports viewership, right? If it's that extra push, then why aren't we using it? And why are we almost just attaching ourselves to the negative aspect of it versus preventing someone from becoming almost like, an addicted sports bettor? Like, I feel like there are ways to kind of market around like how it's an entertainment factor versus it being like, I've just spent all of my rent on sports, right? Like, that's terrible. Let's not do that. So how can we prevent that? I think, betting education is necessary. And so, that's just, of course, like one component of what we're doing. We've also focused heavily on like just telling engaging stories behind the athlete, because we've seen that Gen Z is, or not even just Gen Z, but the fluid fan may not have a favorite team. I myself love football. I cannot pick a favorite team to save my life. It's been 2 years of me trying to pick a favorite team.
There might be some players here that might try to convince you.
Yeah, and it's been 2 years of me trying to pick a favorite team. I just cannot, right? But do I have my favorite players? Absolutely. And I'll watch each game just to see them. And I would love to hear more stories around like why they got into playing football, or like, what were the decisions behind the scenes that they were making around like plays and things like that, right? So, and that's just me as a new fan looking at it. So I can't say that I'm speaking for fans that have, kind of watched football for like 10 years and 20 years, right? But just seeing that trend of wanting more media and content around the sport versus let's just invest in the sport. And I think we actually heard the Chiefs president talk about it today, how they've now invested in having an entire production arm because of the success with their Hallmark. I think was the Chiefs' love story or something, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so you see that, and you're like, well, that's way out there. Not what you would expect from an NFL team, but just seeing how you can almost build fandom in different ways, right? We have to explore those creative avenues. And so that's what we're always encouraging our clients and partners to do. But that's what we've been focused on.
We had another guest on the show, Jimmy Roberts, who's a broadcaster, and he is the ultimate storyteller. And he dove into why it was so important that we tell stories about the people and the history. And it is for engagement. It's whatever that compelling thing is that will make you connect with someone and then continue to follow them. And storytelling is crucial.
I mean, I've put it pretty simply. I'm like, humans love humans. We're interested in humans. I look at the success of shows like Love Island, for example. I think that's a perfect example of where we're sort of like headed in the space. And that's not to say sports. I just mean entertainment, media, etc., right? And so you see how successful that was. And it was almost like an anomaly. But why was it so successful? Well, it brought in social media. It created an entire community. I mean, you felt like you were part of something when you said you watched Love Island, and you could talk about this clip that happened. And it's all happening live a couple days a week. I mean, what was it, 4 days a week?
Yeah, 4 or 5. It was a
impressive.
Sprint and a marathon.
That is impressive, that you're able to keep that many viewers engaged and chatting online about something, right?
Yep.
So if you just look at that, there's an appetite for this live content, but there's also an appetite for authentic storytelling, because, I mean, if we're talking Love Island, for example, you've got real human emotion. You've got real action happening, I guess you could say. I mean, of course, everyone likes their drama, right? But we're in love with conflict. I say it that simply, right? And I'm not saying that it has to be, it could be an internal conflict is what I mean, right? It doesn't have to be you and we're going at it, right?
Taking it out.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to duke it out. I just mean it could be, it's I've got to get ready for this game. I have a sprained ankle. I don't know if I can, right? Something along those lines, right? Where it's in this internal battle. We're in love with that sort of storytelling, and I had to overcome these challenges. Like, humans love that, right? So how can we do more of that and show real emotion, tell real stories, and have it all done where we're creating a conversation? That is what makes something viral. That is what creates like this, almost like I don't want to call it a cult, but
like fan base.
Yeah. But like almost like there's a different level of love for it, though, if that makes sense. I'm trying to find a better word. I don't know. I'm like at a blank for what the word is to describe that outside of community, but yeah, like a very loyal fan base, if that makes sense. And that's essentially what we're looking to do. And again, not just in sports, but looking at what's working in other spaces and translating it to sport, right? And so the example I gave was Love Island. That has absolutely nothing to do with sports, but
still entertainment.
It's still entertainment. So we look at all those industries and try to create an overlap, and that's what's been most exciting, is just having full control over what it is that we create. So
GalwayPlus is the proud sponsor of the Sports Umbrella. GalwayPlus Sports and Entertainment is the first of its kind platform in the wealth and risk management sectors, designed to cater to the diverse needs of affluent individuals, teams, leagues, and organizations operating within the sports and entertainment industries. Learn more at GalwayPlus.com. And you mentioned how whether we consciously or not, love the underdog story. Can you tell us a little bit about the docuseries you're working on?
Yeah, so we're working on a docuseries called Finding the Underdog, where it's an athlete-led docuseries around just a few different athletes, one being Ashley Shaw. And so she's a young golfer, and there aren't many stories. I mean, you know this, but there aren't many stories around young golfers and what they have to go through to achieve greatness, and especially when you get into female golfers, right? Like, non-existent, right?
Agreed.
Well, almost non-existent. I don't want to say. I know the work you guys are doing, and it's needed. It's what I mean.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so just seeing that and wanting to tell her story, because she's amazing, right? And she's just one example. We have a ton of other athletes. You guys definitely check that out. But we have our distribution deal with Fubo. It's been acquired by Hulu. Yeah, and so we're just working through that to tell those stories of those underdog athletes and what it takes to be great.
Amazing. Is that live now? Is that something we could watch now or not yet?
Not yet. Yeah, still working through filming and so.
Okay.
So
well, let us know when it's live and
Absolutely.
I'll be sure to blast that out.
Yes. Oh, I would appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about this already with the connection, but where do you see sports, entertainment, and media in the next 5 years?
I would say that in the next 5 years, I could see, well, one, we're moving towards streaming. And so, seeing as though TV viewership will decline another, 15 to 20% by maybe 2040-ish. Yeah, we're definitely going to need to consider, how do we pull in these groups? How do we pull in these younger generations to make them want to view that game, right? And so I could see it definitely being more interactive. As I mentioned before, the new fan or, just the overall consumer, honestly, loves to be involved, right? And so if I can interact, if I can go to some experience, I'm going to fall in love with the brand even more, right? I'm going to fall in love with the sport even more. I could definitely just see it becoming more of a digital hub for each of these sports, maybe. I think that's sort of where we're moving, if that makes sense, right? So definitely more on the digital side, creating more online communities around each sport, especially in entertainment and media as well.
Yeah. And going back to VMG's founding, there are 3 of you that founded it together.
Yeah.
All from different experiences, very diverse backgrounds within sports and not within sports.
Yeah.
How do you think that gives you an advantage going into this industry?
Yeah, that's absolutely our edge. And I say that because, we don't come from the lens of, we've all been watching sports our entire lives. We've been in the sports space for 25 plus years. I mean, I've only been alive 25 years, but still, we don't come from that space, right? And I think even the multi-generational aspect of our agency is amazing because I can come from a Gen Z perspective, whereas, Danita and Nicole can come from their generation's perspective, right? And so they're able to kind of say, I probably wouldn't go to that, but it's interesting, right? And so we can kind of go back to the drawing board and say, all right, well, how would we make your generation interested in this, right? Okay, we've checked off the box of Gen Z, but what does this look like for you guys, right? And so I think just having the edge of Nicole's been in the space for 25 plus years, so she knows all the changes and, maybe if we come up with an idea that's already been done, she can say, oh yeah, they tried that at such and didn't work because, right? And she's an expert in that. Whereas I am more of I went to school for biomedical engineering, so very different than sports, media, and entertainment. But I see things in almost I'm a problem solver at heart, right? And so I'll see an issue. I just want to address what that problem is once I've identified it. And I'm like, okay, and here's why it'll work, right? So very much an engineer mindset. So I say all the time, I'm an entrepreneur, but with an engineer mindset. And so I'll build the machine in a sense.
Yeah.
But really coming from a space of 1, detailed research, and 2, innovation. That mindset of just, what's not working and how can we make it better, right? So that's my strong suit. And then Danita's 1, operations guru. I don't know how she does it, but she's just I think I can get lost in my ideas. I can get very creative with the ideas that I have in an engineer kind of way, if that makes totally data geek here, but really just wanting to build something. I can just get lost in that and she'll bring us right back to okay, now how do we get this done? Right. So she's almost the expert project manager in a sense, but she's also got this understanding of culture and fashion. And she was CEO at Harlem's Fashion Row for a while. So she's got a love for that and a passion for that, which helps us tremendously in the entertainment space.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. She's got that down. So yeah, honestly, I love the fact that we don't overlap too much because it really brings 3 very different perspectives. And I think it forces us to bring the best ideas that could resonate with all 3 of our personas, if that makes sense, right? And so, that's definitely our edge because it's not like an echo chamber, if that makes sense, where we're all just saying the same thing and it's yep, that's what we're going to do, right? Mm-hmm. It really does force innovation in a sense. It forces creativity because we're all challenging each other's thoughts. So that's really our edge there.
Yeah, very powerful team, it sounds like. So what sort of brands or clients do you work with? Who's an ideal fit for your agency?
We've wanted to work with different teams that are just wanting to target a new audience, and whether it's, I don't know, the Ravens, or it could be any team. But we also work at the league level, so we could go directly to the NFL and say, hey, we have a concept for you that we've drafted. We think this could be great for you guys. License it out from us, right? And we've had amazing conversations, even with like the MLS, and just wanting to tap into the NWSL. So we're having a lot of great conversations around how we can kind of change the game. So we're looking forward to what's to come.
I am too. Jane, thank you so much for joining us. Really, like you said, looking forward to see what all your bright minds are really doing to help grow the game and all the games, which I really appreciate.
Awesome. Thank you.